Damn, Ochaco was the MVP of this chapter. Alright everyone, welcome to another Macadamia manga chapter review, and this time we'll go over the events that happened in chapter 323, the recent chapter. This chapter has opened up many things on how the new and improved UA security barrier has been implemented. Also, Principal Nezu giving the United We Stand Divided We Fall speech to Class 1A to bring Deku back, and of course, resuming the everlasting protest from the civilians to not let Deku stay in UA, where we see Ochaco makes her stand to cover her boyfriend, friend. So with that all said, let's go over what went down this chapter. To start it off, the chapter starts off with a time skip to before Class 1A went to retrieve Deku. We see Lieutenant Ida talking to Principal Nezu on bringing Deku back to UA, which can be done given UA's security barrier, given that the people who are being sheltered could be convinced if they manage to bring Deku back safely. Hearing this, Principal Nezu doesn't want the swaying of emotions to shelter Deku in UA as he's the most valuable asset for the heroes, given that it was compared that UA's security is to that of Tartarus prison. With that said, Momoyaru say that Shiraki easily destroyed Tartarus prison and easily infiltrated UA last year. Principal Nezu replies to a concern stating that UA's security systems has been upgraded by Nezu himself, where she claims if a raid were to happen, the civilians and students sheltered here wouldn't be harmed by the villains. On top of that, Nezu reveals that UA can now move, where she elaborates that the mechanisms on the campus grounds can split into smaller areas where they could move underground to strengthen the defense. Also, if those systems were destroyed, well, there's 3,000 steel plates reinforced underground, which will trigger if there's interference that will activate the defense systems. While on the topic of security breaches, regarding the incident involving identity swap, which happened to came from Shiketsu High during the provisional license arc exam, which the school Shiketsu High has been modified to close to UA security level. With all the cards used on UA safety, Principal Nezu gives Class 1A a talk about lack of understanding and empathy. It's a step closer to them as people are unable to take those steps to escape fate. So if having the students to work collectively as one, that one step can lead to the path forward despite the pain. Principal Nezu believes this is more than enough reason for Deku to belong here and asks them to reach Deku. Now then, after that speech and transitions back to the present as the protesters are not giving into the idea to let Deku be sheltered in UA, the students hear comments being said left to right about Shiraki going to come after UA, Deku to leave UA. In the crowd we see Deku's mom who's crying her eyes out, as we also see Baku's mom who's holding her back, telling her it's too dangerous out now. We also get to see Koda who's there along with Ragdoll with the look of despair on their faces seeing the ever-growing crowd. And from inside UA's dorms we see Class 1B students seeing what's happening outside and seeing Monoma reassuring Eri from the uproar outside. As the protesting continues, we see Best Genius stepping in to calm the crowds. He reveals to the public what the heroes and Deku had been doing to find the villain's location to All For One, but the plan didn't lead anywhere. Best Genius knows that Deku is the villain's target. However, Deku is an important asset to the heroes, which they couldn't let him be out in the field for long, fearing the possibility he could have been killed. Best Genius asks the protesters to let Deku rest here so he can be prepared to fight in the best conditions. However, the protesters weren't swayed and focused their attentions on blaming all these events on the heroes who were being incapable of being heroes. The growing anxiety and fear from the crowd gets to Deku by the way his face reacted, being distressed, having to take a step back. As the protesters kept roaring, we see Ochaco take off in a sprint and leaves up high above the crowd, where we see Ochaco's parents down in the crowd seeing their daughter taking off. Ochaco manages to get herself on top of the UA building while carrying a megaphone to speak. Ochaco gets the public's attention by stating that Izuku has his special power. Then a man shouts out that's the reason a guy like him can't come back to UA because he's tired. Ochaco says he's wrong and that Deku left UA because they didn't want to put anyone in danger, as well as clarifying that the heroes are the ones who brought Deku back to UA. Ochaco tells everyone that Deku's power is special because it's the power made to defeat the villain All For One, which is the reason he's targeted. She asks everyone to look at the state Deku's in. Ochaco shouts out that Deku's been giving his best to change the situation more than anybody, giving his willingness to move forward for others despite knowing he could be attacked at any moment. While saying that, within the crowd we see that furry girl who was rescued by Deku a couple chapters back, who recognized Deku as the boy who saved her. Then it goes back to Ochaco as she continues on her speech, saying that Deku has a special power but that doesn't make him a special person. After said that, back on the ground level, Baku was there next to Deku, seeing that the public are going nuts even when the security system they have is in place, where he comments something along the lines, if you can't do it yourself, let us heroes do it for you, while saying this with an aggravated face. Then as the panel switches over to Principal Nezu seeing the events unfolded, where we get to see his chain of thoughts as he restates his quote he said to Class 1A. that the first step is always hard, but taking a step at a time like this, according to his own thought of words, will lead to the birth of a true hero, one that will surpass All Might himself. All the while, as it shows Ochaco still on the rooftop of UA, while still having the grip of the megaphone on her hands, showing it as the last panel, as the manga chapter ends there. Alright, that was the end of that. Now, I gotta say, what a show of encouragement showed from Ochaco, having to put herself in the spotlight to tell everyone the feats Deku has gone through to keep UA safe. The way Ochaco expressed herself, I thought to myself that's something a hero would do. A true hero, like Principal Nezu said. As Ochaco had a thought in the last chapter, who will save heroes when they're the ones in trouble? Also, could we talk about what Principal Nezu said? That his school could freaking move? Never mind his bending, when he mentioned all this, that the ground can move because of the mechanisms that we see below the ground. It reminded me of the anime series Code Geass, where the antagonist Liuch sabotages a system to break down the defenses of Great Birthino that caused the steel reinforced ground to collapse, destroying an army. I don't remember which episode took place, but it happened towards the last few episodes of season 1 of the series. But yeah, I don't think something like that could happen here, but it could happen. We will have to wait and see. And also, while reading it, I had a thought in my mind on what if the UA building was able to transform itself into a transformer robot like a Megazord. I could actually see that happening if Nezu actually went as far to put that into the defense system. There are shows that tackle this where something like a house transforms into a big robot for combat purposes. I know the Black Bulls from Black Clover have a base that can turn into a mecha, and there's a character from One Piece named Bird who can turn his own body into a big defensive castle. And then there's of course the Power Rangers. With all that mentioned, it may happen. Maybe I might be pulling the gun here, but it's kind of likely. Now for my prediction for the next chapter, I believe it could go two ways, where the protesters will still not want Deku to be sheltered in UA, or I could see something in the next chapter where there's a compromise that takes place for Deku to be allowed to stay in UA, where the one condition is to hide Deku's whereabouts, that he's not actually UA but somewhere out there looking for an awful one. But I don't know how much that can last for now. But anyways, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please give this video a like, and if you want, consider subscribing to my channel for more macadamia and manga content, and also follow my Twitter at akid down in the description below. And see you next time in the next video. Peace.